Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for my first reading vlog of 2026. And in this video, I will be discussing Jennette McCurdy's latest book, Half His Age, which is a fictional adult book that focuses on a predatory relationship between a 17-year-old girl who is a minor and what I'm assuming is an adult man. And basically, from what I know about this book prior, is that, Jennette McCurdy, as we all know, used to be a Nickelodeon child star, notably in iCarly and Sam and Cat. And I never read her memoir that she wrote a few years ago, which was called I'm So Glad My Mom Died, or something like that. But I've heard people discuss it, and I remember people said that she went into detail about her emotionally abusive mother, who has now passed away, as well as her relationship with Dan Schneider, whom we all know created many hit shows on Nickelodeon, such as Victorious, iCarly, etc. But he is more known these days for being a creep. So I'm expecting or suspecting really that this book might be inspired by that. I don't know. I do know that Jennette is not by any means romanticizing pedophilia or predatory sexual relationships or anything like that. I think that this book is really going to delve into survivors and victims of such predatory relationships and all that stuff. I don't know. I feel as if sometimes people don't emphasize really with the survivors of these situations and don't really understand why anyone would be in such a situation. And I've only read a few pages so far of this book, but what I can gauge so far is that the main character is quite young, and what she's looking for in a relationship and sex has not been satisfying so far. And maybe it's because she's searching for the wrong things necessarily, and she's not finding what is satisfying. And the descriptions so far are very, very meticulous. So anyway, all that to say, I will be diving fully into the details of this book. And so with that said, this video does contain spoilers. So yeah. I'm 5 chapters into this book so far. I think there's less than 30 chapters overall. But anyway, here's what we know so far about Waldo, our main character. She's 17. She has a single mom. She has a job at Victoria's Secret. And she seems to not have a lot of friends. She spends all of her time when she's not working or at school online shopping to make herself more, I guess, attractive, which is totally understandable again and totally normal for a young 17-year-old girl with no siblings and no friends and plenty of free time. So yeah, there's that. It's interesting to me that she's criticizing her mother for always falling in love with emotionally unavailable men when that's literally what she's doing. However, she is 17, so it's understandable that she doesn't have the nuance or the insight to understand that she's being hypocritical, because she's explained throughout this book so far that she's never had a stable father figure. So it's almost understandable that that's what she's seeking out. You know what I mean? Because most people, from a psychological perspective, tend to fall into these abusive predatory relationships because they've never witnessed a healthy relationship. You know what I mean? So anyway, it's totally understandable that she has a crush on her teacher and she has all these sexual fantasies about him, and she's not emotionally close with anyone in her life. Her friend Franny, for example, her mother, for example, etc., etc. So yeah. Anyway, I feel sorry for Waldo as a person, for sure, but like, I don't know, the writing right now just seems kind of basic. I don't know, sometimes when celebrities who are known for their jobs, whether as acting or like whatever, whenever they try out a new avenue, I always wonder if their new avenue will actually be good or if people will just be biased towards them. Because obviously this book received a lot of attention whenever Jennette first announced it, because a lot of people thought that she was romanticizing this relationship, which I don't think she is. But also, second of all, she's Jennette McCurdy, you know what I mean? She's Sam from iCarly, we all remember that. So anyway, there's that. So basically, for context, Waldo was invited by her teacher to go to his home for dinner. And so she met his wife as well as his child, and she learned that he and his wife have been together for almost as long as she's been alive, which is horrifying to think about. And then she emailed him to thank him for this wonderful dinner, and then she left her phone number for him, and he called her, which is so gross. Not on her part, on his part. That's disgusting. Also, there are 4 more chapters in this book than I originally thought, but anyway, there's that. This man is so gross, and the way that he is perceiving his wife is so weird. Like, Gwen seems like a totally normal person. She's a little overexcited, but like, she's completely typical. He isn't. He's so gross. Anyway, there's that. Her teacher is so disgusting and so gross. Admitting to a 17-year-old that you have feelings for them is disgusting. And it's despicable. But I will focus on the fact that Waldo is now referring to him by his last name and no longer calling him Mr. because she no longer thinks of him as like an authoritative figure now that they've done sexual things together. He is so annoying and so gross. This is disgusting. I hope he loses his job. I hope she realizes that, like, what's happening here is not her fault. And he is abusing his power, no matter how much he says that, like, she's so young, we can't do this. Stop talking to her. Stop talking to her. Like, having feelings for a minor is not okay at all, obviously. But acting on them is even worse. He needs to go to jail. Go home, go to jail. Like, break up with your wife. You have a child who's like a toddler, I think. Anyway, go to jail. I hate this man for real. And I know you're supposed to. Like, that's obvious. But, like, he's so annoying. Anyway, I must continue reading. Telling her that she's in control and, like, telling her that, like, we can stop whenever you want to is a manipulation tactic after she is trying to set a boundary, because obviously she's hurt that he's taking calls from his wife while they're on a date together. Like, if they were all consensual adults, like, I would understand more that she's feeling jealous of his wife. You know what I mean? But, like, the fact that he's telling her that she's in control is absolutely not true, because he knows that as the grown adult in this situation, even though she recently turned 18, that he's in control. And that, like, if this all hits the fan, if the public finds out, he's gonna get in trouble, and she won't. And he knows that. He's completely aware of everything that he's doing, I think. And he's gaslighting her, basically, because, like, she feels so out of control, understandably, because everything is out of control for her. And, like, it will continue to be, regardless of how much he reassures her that she's in control with this relationship. Like, she is not. I don't know if that made any sense, but basically he sucks. And I don't like him at all. There are two things of note right now. One is that the fact that the waiter thought that they were father and daughter, like, there's a whole layer to that, because their age gap between them is so large that a stranger would think that they're father and daughter. And second of all, the fact that, like, he's trying to break up with her, essentially, and, like, he's saying that he feels guilty about his family and his wife and everything, but he's not considering the fact that their relationship is illegal. Like, there's no talk of the fact that, like, it's illegal. A teacher-student relationship is illegal. Regardless of her age, it's an imbalance of power, it's an abuse of power, a violation of privacy. Like, this is disgusting. And the fact that he's not saying that out loud makes me think that he is not as disgusted as he should be. You know what I mean? He's just talking as if he's just having an affair instead of having sex with his student. You know what I mean? Like, cheating on your partner is awful, but at least do it with a consenting adult. You know? Anyway, I'm like 60% through this book so far, so that's where I'm at. You're an adult when you make me leave my family, but you're a kid when it's convenient to you? Fuck off. She didn't make you leave your family. You decided to do that. You decided to divorce your wife without any explanation, and you decided to continue a sexual relationship with a person who used to be your student, and you are abusing your power over her. Are you joking? This man deserves jail time. In other news, I'm so happy that her mother, Waldo's mother, has found this program that's genuinely really healthy for her, because I hope that Waldo joins this program too, frankly, and reconciles her friendship with Franny and Tristan and, what was her boyfriend's name? Like, her age-appropriate boyfriend, what was his name? I don't remember. Tristan is Franny's boyfriend, if I'm remembering correctly. Nolan, that's his name. Anyway, we don't know a lot about Franny's life, except the fact that she's a Mormon, and I think that's on purpose to show how Waldo and Franny are not emotionally, like, super connected. Although I loved Franny's reaction when Waldo told her about this relationship with her teacher, because Franny is correct. He is grooming her, and the fact that, like, this breakup conversation where he's talking about, like, her future, excuse me? Shut up. I hate him so much. So I finished the book and I rated it 3 stars because, frankly, first of all, the ending felt very anticlimactic, and I wish that there had been more character development for Waldo and where she sees herself with her future and her friends and everything. And it sucks that, unfortunately, her mother fell back into the same patterns and the same cycles that she's been doing this entire time. So I also wish that there had been more character development there. But I appreciated that Waldo stood up for herself and left this horrible man in Hawaii by himself. Because he sucks. And obviously he's supposed to suck. I know I've said that this entire time, how revolting his actions were throughout the entire thing. But he's supposed to be this stereotypical, gross human being. You know what I mean? Like, everything about his background and everything felt so, I don't know, one-dimensional, because I didn't care for him because I wasn't supposed to, because he's a pedophile. You know what I mean? Anyway, so overall, like I said before, I've never read anything before by Jennette, and I don't think she's written anything besides this and her memoir. So basically her writing is very blunt, which is totally like fine, but it's not really my taste. And frankly, I don't know. I feel like people might go into this book forgetting that it's supposed to be like fictional, and they might think that she's inspired by her own life because it might read that way. Some people are saying that this book feels both gross and engrossing, but I feel like it was just gross. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, this book depicted what it's like to be groomed, which is obviously an awful, disgusting experience, and my heart goes out to any survivors of said gross experience. And it's very, very explicit and racy, which again is not my taste, but I knew this book would be explicit because that's one of the reasons as to why I skipped reading Jennette's memoir, because people kept talking about how, like, her details were so meticulous and whatnot. Anyway, all that to say, I rated this book 3 stars. It's not my vibe, it's not my taste, and I also didn't really find it to be super deep or compelling. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of think this book is overrated, which might seem unfair because it literally just came out, but that's my review. So yeah. So in conclusion, I probably would have DNF'd this book if I hadn't been filming a reading vlog for it, because this book is not riveting, really. It's revolting, and I know that the subject matter is supposed to be like gross and disgusting because she's not romanticizing this relationship. She's depicting it as gross and predatory and abusive because it is. And she's being very blunt about it because that's maybe the best way to describe like what's going on and the layers of like the imbalance of power and abuse and grooming and everything. So yeah, there's that. I rated this book 3 stars. I'm not sure if I would really recommend it. There were many people on Goodreads who've rated this book much higher, and I'm not quite sure why. Again, I wanted more from the ending and frankly from her character development towards the end, but maybe that's the point. Maybe since she is so young, by the end of it, she never quite realizes that everything that happened to her is not her fault because she doesn't know that yet. You know what I mean? So maybe I just wanted an epilogue. I don't know, set years later or something. Anyway, all that to say, if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. I'm not quite sure if I'm going to do more reading vlogs in 2026. I mentioned this in a previous video, but I don't know like which reading vlogs are going to perform well or not, because it really depends on what book I'm reading and how popular the book is and whether or not people have read the book or not. So anyway, there's that. If you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up, comment down below the blueberry emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!